Here's how to saddle a horse with a Western saddle, particularly a big horse. So you always start off with your pad. I like these wool pads. I think this is a 1-inch thick pad. It's real nice. Made by Weaver leather. Yeah, Weaver. So they provide cushioning and back protection. And I say they kind of act like the sock and insole to your shoe. So you always want a good pad just to protect their back and make your horse comfortable and happy. So I'm just going to toss it up there. It has a wither cut out right there. The wither is this piece right here if you aren't familiar with horses. What you're going to do, I like touching them, their shoulder with it, and then I just pop it up there. I know he saddles pretty good, so I don't take a lot of extreme precautions. I've had horses that I would make sure that they had their eye on me and whatever, and I'd keep my arm there and pop it up like this. But that's usually not the case if you have a trained horse or a horse that has a good foundation. He has a good foundation. He's not started to like riding, but he's worn saddles and a bunch of different stuff, so he's real good. So we just toss it up there. You roughly, depending on the build of the horse, you want this front to kind of be the center of their knee. For him, he's a little bit farther back, so I just do kind of where this pad fits with the contour of his back. One thing I like about this particular pad is that it has this contour to it. You can see how it slopes down and it comes up. And of course I've used it quite a bit. I've had it for several years, but it has that contour to their backs, and so it sits on them pretty good. And then I do like these cutouts. They just provide a little bit of extra height so the withers aren't getting pinched, but it makes it a little bit easier for me to pick up my saddle pad. And then sometimes I'll pre-move their mane forward. If your horse has their mane braided all the way down to their withers, you always want to make sure you pull it out from underneath. You want it kind of in the hole or pushing forward, so that it's not uncomfortable for them underneath. So it just depends on the horse. Sometimes I do it after I get the saddle up. So now I'm going to get the saddle, and I'll show you how I put a Western saddle on. Alright, this is a big saddle and a big horse, so I tie up my stirrup to my opposite saddle string, and I put all of my cinches in breast color on over the saddle so that there's less for me to have to swing up there, because I'm a lightweight and the saddle's not exactly light to me. And then I grab this opposite skirting kind of near the back cinch, and then I grab up here by the pommel, wherever is comfortable for me. And so now I'm going to come over and make sure he acknowledges it. 1, 2, 3. That was a terrible swing, but you can walk it up there a little bit, and you're going to make sure that this pad is maintained center. You pull that up on the front. You always want to put your saddles on as gently as possible. If I were to get a big swing on him, I'd slam that saddle down because I'm not strong enough to set it back down, because that's like above my head pretty much. So that's kind of how I do it. Usually I have a little bit better of a swing so I can get it up there, and I like to take a step and step into it, but I didn't do it great, and it happens. And so I'll just set it on them a little bit and then work it up. So now what I gotta do is I gotta adjust my pad, make sure it's center, make sure my saddle is centered on the pad. I want this latigo to go right here where there's a cutout on my pad. And so it's roughly gonna sit where this latigo is gonna come behind his elbow by about a hand. And so we want to make sure that it's in a place where it's not going to completely just roll. It's not going to slide forward or back. We want a good fitting saddle. You can find lots of different videos on how to properly fit a saddle, which those are by saddle fitters. So, you know, I highly recommend going and finding a video by a saddle fitter on Saddle Fit. But roughly, like, you want the saddle to fit the contour of their back and the contour of the shoulders, which for him it does. This saddle does. That's why he gets a heavy saddle and not any of my lightweight saddles, because of how heavy, or how that fits. Even though it's heavier for me, of course it's not going to bug him at all. He's a big horse, and I'm kind of small, but you know, it fits him pretty good. So anyway, we have this side all adjusted. Now I have to go to the other side, and I'll bring you guys over. So now I have to come over to this side to drop all my stuff and get the rest of my saddle squared away. So I just make sure that he acknowledges that I'm here. You know, most horses are going to be fine, but there's some horses that would spook, and so you want to make sure that they know you're there. And so I'm going to adjust this pad first. I like picking up on my saddle a little bit and then shoving my pad up to pick up on those withers, just because it's a little easier for the angle for me. And then I make sure that hair's out of the way of the pad so it's not pinching down on him. And then I'm going to untie this. You don't ever have to tie this stirrup up. I just do because it makes my life easier. I'm going to set that down. Then I'm going to get these cinches. I'm going to bring them down. And I'm going to line them up how I need to have them lined up. This cinch hobble is a sliding hobble. There's no true no like hard hobble on this, so I got to make sure that that's where it needs to be every single time. And then this is a different cinch from what I used on him yesterday, because one I used yesterday, I don't think it fit him very good, and so I just make sure that the center line is going to get near his center line. It can be this side a little bit, and I know the back cinch is adjusted to him, so I don't really need to do much. But if you were needing to adjust your back cinch, you do the same thing. You just make sure that the center of the back cinch is roughly the center of his belly, and we know that this sits pretty good. Actually, I don't need to do that, just because this cutout is where this latigo is going to go, and when this goes under it, like, there's clearance for his elbow. So yeah, and you want these to hang directly down. So you want your hobble here, your cinch hobble, to be long enough that it hangs vertical. And then also I have this breast collar that I got to pull over, and I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to try to bring it in front of the cinch a little bit so that I'm not worried about it. But so when I go to do his breast collar, I can just reach around him. He's kind of a big horse, so I can't exactly just reach around him, but it's pretty close. And I also make sure that my saddle strings are out from underneath, because I'm terrible about getting saddle strings underneath, and I wonder why my horse is uncomfortable. I try to be super conscious about it. We'll go back to the other side. Mr. Sir, Scooch. You always want to make sure that your horse is away from the fence or any pinch point, so that if something were to happen, you're not getting yourself hurt. There we go. I'm going to toss that over so he's not stepping on it. And so now what we're going to do, we always do front cinch first. So that big white cotton cinch, we're going to bring it under. And we're going to undo our latigo. I do basically the Texas T cowboy knot, however you want to put it. And so all I have to do is pull it down. And then I have my end. I'm going to stick it through that ring. I'm going to come up, back through this top ring, back down. I'm going to just kind of get it snug where it's not going to fall off of him, but I'm not going to do it tight yet. And I'm going to put it up in the keeper. I'm going to do this back cinch, watching his back feet, watching his head, because he's a younger horse, and so he's not been, he's worn saddles over and over, but he's not an old pro at it. Again, I'm going to bring it where there's a little bit more gap in there, but it's nearly touching his hair all the way around. Now I'm going to grab this breast collar. I'm going to bring it around up front. I'm going to unclip this piece, and I'm going to put it up in its keeper, or up in its D-ring. It's not necessarily a keeper. And I'm going to adjust it to the center. Find where center is on him. It's the same as Coda, my big old mare. She also has a giant chest. I'm going to put it in this keeper right here. And then I'm going to clip the front, like the breast collar ring, to the cinch ring right there. Now, especially on these younger horses, I pull them away from the fence to finish tightening the cinches. So the reason I pull them away from the fence is sometimes they want to be able to move, or I have had one instance where the horse went off bucking because she was not happy about it. That was a while ago, but it's just a lot safer for him to be able to move forward, backward, however he needs to. So I had to take him off the fence. Now I'm going to stick my hand underneath this ring. I'm going to snug it up.